Good afternoon. Happy lunchtime. I guess it's lunch hour for most of my listeners today. Unless you're listening around the world, which sometimes happen. I know that we've got listeners in India and Africa and the Netherlands. So welcome everyone to Creating Connection with Sarah Green. I am live here on Clear Source Radio, streaming from Dallas, Fort Worth, the hot and disgusting Dallas, Fort Worth. But I am live with you guys today and super excited about my show. This is some content that I'm doing from a class that I taught last year at 3 Vino, right down the road. And it was a segment called Wine About Parenting. 3 Vino is this fabulous little wine bar in Roanoke, Texas. They have a beautiful selection of wines and a gorgeous patio and live music and beautiful little cheese trays. And it's a place where I sometimes go and spend some time to relax and unwind. And they invited me in last year to do a parenting class that we titled Wine About Parenting. It was a great time for everybody. And so that content is still super current because it was about your household and setting up your life with your kids and how you do that and how you create harmony. And it's timely as we go into the school year and we start thinking about, okay, next month school starts back up and how do we want to run the household and what changes do we want to make? Before I get started today, I do want to just remind everybody this is Clear Source Radio. We have a beautiful app that you can download free for Android or Apple products, Clear Source app, where you can listen and stream live, or you can just log into clearsourceradio.com to hear all of the fabulous programming. I know tonight is Sterling Day's program, Evolution of You. We have Melanie Rogers also this evening, and there's a lot of great content that happens on Wednesdays. So I encourage you to check our website and look and see what programming we offer and listen to my fellow hosts. I also want to give a shout out to my buddies over at Moritz BMW Mini of Arlington. They super helped me out earlier this month when I bought a car from them, and they've become a sponsor for me. And I just, if you think about buying a Mini or a BMW, go visit them because they really went above and beyond for me, and I was super impressed with the customer service. And I love my new Mini. I've always loved Minis. This is my third one. I bought the Countryman, and if you don't know, there's a new app out for the new Minis called Mini Connected, and my Mini has a G-Force monitor. So I know I'm a mom and I'm a parent or whatever, but I just feel like I need to let everybody know that I have a car that has a G-Force monitor because that is cool. And I'm planning to go down to Austin later this year with a friend of mine that's a driving instructor to maybe learn how to really drive that thing. But enough about that. We are moving on to today's parenting edition. One of the things that I do in my private practice, which is called Heartlight Services, you can find me at heartlightservices.com, is I have kind of developed what works over the years as far as a program to just tips and tricks and tools and some of the best things out there. Most of you know I was a therapeutic foster parent. We started getting licensed in 2010, and we had a lot of tough kids, and we took a lot of parenting classes, and I read a lot of parenting books, and I did a lot of intense hands-on therapeutic parenting of a lot of kids that had a lot of intense needs. And I've kind of just distilled down what I teach in my practice, the best of the best, and kind of what works. And I am taking calls today. If anybody wants to call in on the studio line, that number is 817-380-4354. Feel free to call in if you have questions or comments or concerns, or consider this kind of a free advice period, and you can get some time with me answering your questions and helping you through your issues without having to come into the office or Skype me and pay my hourly rate. Anyway, so let's move along. So we talked a little bit about my background and Everybody knows that as a foster parent, a therapeutic foster parent. And we talked about that I have a private practice now. I do practice energy medicine. I am an intuitive and a healer, and my focus is primarily on children and adults that have childhood trauma and childhood issues. So the tougher the case, the better. That was the case for me as a foster mom. The harder the kid was, the harder the bigger the issue, the bigger the puzzle it was. It's just was really a challenge to me. And so these are tips and tricks and things that I share that we're going to talk about this hour with people that come through the doors of the practice. One of the things that I really focus on with my families that come in the door my goal is to create families that are leading intentional lives. And so I'm so strong in intention and what intention means for us. That word, what your intent is. What do you intend to create in your household? What do you intend to create in your family? What is it that you want? Most of all, what are your goals and your dreams for your household? It's easy to get caught. I do it, and I do this for a living, in the day-to-day living and life, and life gets messy sometimes, and it's easy to get caught up and lose sight of what your intention is and what your goals are for your family. And the other side of the coin is you can't create your rules and the goals for your family and the things that you want to create if you don't know what your intentions are for your household. Some people are very centered on following God, and they're very centered on following their religion, and that's a huge part of their household. In my family, we have basically two rules. Our intention, and my intention is in my household, is for everyone to be helpful and to be kind. And really every rule, everything that falls under that, is it helpful or is it kind? Is it helpful or is it kind? And if it's not helpful or if it's not kind, then we need to readdress what we're dealing with or our behaviors. Another thing that I really intend to create in my household is peace. I want to have a cozy, harmonious, peaceful household. It's sometimes easier said than done with a bunch of little boys running around, and I have, a 5-year-old, and they're loud and they're hyperactive, and there's a lot of hard surfaces, and I don't have enough curtains and things to absorb the noise. But I really want to create a home that when people walk in, they immediately feel at ease, and they want to sit down, and they want to have coffee with us, and they feel enveloped and warm. But by being helpful and kind, we make that happen. So, that's how it is for me. So the first thing I tell my family is, what are your priorities? Let's list your top 5 priorities. Let's list your intention, kind of like a mission statement for your family. The Greens intend to create a household that is X, Y, and Z. Our priorities are this. And everything else kind of flows from that. It's possible to create the family you want and the environment you want, and not just live with what you have. It's easy to throw your hands up and say, this is just how it is. This is how my kids are. This is just how things are. And I'm here to tell you that's not the case. Transformation is very possible. And where it starts is really at looking at your priorities and your intentions and how you want things to be in your house. So the other thing when we're creating our intentions and we're setting our thing with parenting that we want to look at is you need to remember that you're raising adults. We're not raising children. We're raising the adults of tomorrow. We're raising husbands and boyfriends and mothers and fathers, and we're raising members of our society. And with children, it's easy to lose sight of the fact, that the qualities in children that are the most unattractive are the ones that we hold in the highest esteem for adults. So think about that for a minute. So if you've got a kid that's tough and difficult and stubborn, I have a really tenacious and stubborn kid, and that was really a challenge for me. As an adult, she is still stubborn and she is still doing things the hard way. However, that tenacity will serve her because she's not going to let go of her goals. She's not going to let someone sway her from what is true for her and what her intentions are and what she's trying to create for herself. She's going to sit in that. So while as a child, it was very difficult for me as a parent, I also held in mind that stubbornness was something that would serve her well in the future. Our kids that are willing to be outspoken and challenge us, and speak up and kind of hold their own ground, that stinks, when you've got a kid that's, nope, I want to do it this way and it's not fair and I need you to give me a reason. If we can hone in those kids these challenges, these things about, when we've got a kid that's really challenging and needs to know why is it like that? And, you just want to say, because I said so, just do it because I said so. But if we can remember that in that child, we're raising an adult that will go to their boss and say, but I need to understand this. And I need to understand why we're doing that. We're creating kids that are willing to challenge systems and look at systems and maybe want it to be different. And they'll be able to change things because they're questioning. So when we're tempted to say, just do it because I said so, that's not the adult we want to raise. We don't want to raise adults that just do things because someone said so. We want to raise adults who are willing to stand up and respectfully, this is the key here, respectfully and calmly disagree or ask questions or challenge what they're being told, because those are the movers and shakers of tomorrow. So there's lots of examples of that in our kids, but I would just say to you, if you've got a kid that's got a personality trait that you really struggle with, look at how that can serve them as an adult and look at ways that you can help refine and hone that in your kid into something that's really going to be a strength for them. Because we don't want to beat it out of them and we don't want to, we want to honor the things that our kids come with. So, all right. One of the things as we go into back to school, and this is kind of the back to school edition, I suppose, is, we need to be examples for our children. And so we need to think about for ourselves how we're feeding our minds and what are we learning. And as we move into this school year with our kids, what are some of the things that we want to do for ourselves this year? We're going to talk about priorities a little bit later, but, and this will feed into that. How are you taking care of you? Do you have a bunch of books on your nightstand that you haven't read? Have you always meant to go take the Zumba class, but you never went? Are you intending to go sign up for lessons, but you haven't? How are you feeding you? How are you taking care of you? What new things are you as the parent bringing into your life to where you can learn and grow? Do you need to go take a parenting class? Go take a love and logic class? Do you need to sign up for some online parenting courses just to kind of get a refresher? Is there something that your church or your community offers, a photography class? Our children need to see us constantly expanding and growing and learning and being willing to assimilate and take on new information so that they become lifelong learners. It's something that's really important for our kids to see us doing, is challenging ourselves and growing and learning. They need to see the fact that we don't have all the answers. We're just people. I think there's that thing that happens around the teenage years where our kids realize that we're just people and we don't have all the answers and we're not perfect. And that can be, really a traumatic thing for our kids. But if we start young with our kids saying, I don't have all the answers and I'm just human and I just want to explore this, or there's always more to learn, or being willing to tell our kids, I don't have the answer and I handled that wrong and I'm sorry and I screwed up, it lessens the burn of our kids all of a sudden waking up one day and saying, my parents are just people and they don't have all the answers and they're not perfect. They need to see us learn and grow and challenge ourselves and change and evolve, because that's what life is about, right? Learning, growing, challenging ourselves, evolving, becoming new and different people. So my question today for you is, as the parent, What are you doing to expand your mind? How are you expanding your mind? How are you challenging yourself? How are you learning? How are you growing? What are you doing to feed your soul? What are you doing to feed your soul? With our spouses, even taking courses. I remember years ago, my kid's dad and I took a stained glass class, which sounds kind of dorky. We went to Hobby Lobby and we took a stained glass class and we did it together. And we went, for 6 weeks to Hobby Lobby every Monday night and took this stained glass class. And it was awesome for us to do that together. We learned a new skill. We each made a piece of stained glass. It was really a cool thing. So, that's how we keep things fresh in our house. And I would really challenge you, if you haven't taken a parenting class, to take a parenting class. So we have to keep ourselves fresh. I have to keep myself fresh. I read books all the time. I watch videos. I challenge myself. I'm a huge believer in Love and Logic. I do refreshers all the time with Love and Logic because it keeps us on our game and it keeps us fresh. It keeps us from falling back into old habits, and so this is super, super important, in my opinion, with our households, that the adults lead the way in growing, expanding, learning, keeping it fresh, evolving, so that we don't have this thing where we're falling back into, homeostasis, where it's just all the same and we're slipping back into old habits. We're keeping it fresh. That's the whole purpose of this, keeping it going and learning and growing. So, the next segment, and if you want to call in, again, I will remind everybody the radio studio line is 817-380-4354. So before we jump into the next segment, if you want to call in, 817-380-4354. You can call in and join us. But we're going to talk about the next segment, which is as we move into the school year and with the summer. This is the dog days of summer, right? So everybody's laying around. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm getting ready to move. I have a lot going on. I'm finishing up my book. Life is busy, and my kids have had way too much screen time. Way too much. I'm just going to own it and admit it. But awareness is the key. So I know. So when I finish with you lovely people today, I'm going to shut this down. We're going to get outside. We're going to get some stuff done. We're going to take care of some business, and we're going to move our legs and move our bodies. And then we're going to come back here, and they're going to help me make dinner. And we're going to just have a screen-free evening. I can hear the groans already. I know that they're not going to be really happy about that, but that is what's happening. So that's the dog days of summer. It's the kind of the long part where we've done all of our activities and everybody's kind of sleeping in late if you have a stay-at-home parent, and it's just the routine's kind of slacking. And so we got to start thinking about, okay, we got to whip it back into shape and get a routine. And so, let's talk about whipping the house back into shape. What have we strayed from? What do we need to be doing on a practical level, and what do we need to be doing on a personal level, and what do we need to be doing in a family level? So the first thing that I want to talk about is our physical environment in our homes. This is so important. It's so important. I can't begin to stress to you how our children and their little minds and their little bodies are overwhelmed by too much clutter and too much chaos. So I've always been a huge proponent of less is more. We recently, a couple of years ago, moved from a very large home on acreage into a very small space. We did that for a couple of reasons. Some of the more practical reasons, we could have moved into a bigger space, but we chose to move into a very small space and simplify our lives down. And what I have always preached really came true. My son was 4 at the time, and or maybe 3, but the amount of toys that he had fit into one of those 9-bin square cube organizers from Target. He had 9 bins of toys, and he had a shelf of books, and those were the toys that we had. And all of those toys got played with, and they all were in their own individual containers, and they were all neatly stored, and they were all neatly organized. Don't look at my son's room right now because, like I said, we're packing to move, and there's a lot going on, but less is more when it comes to our families and our family lives and our households, less is more. You know, Montessori method talks about that, about keeping everything simple and keeping everything accessible and not having a lot of clutter. So it's a good time of the year before we go back to school and get in a routine to start clearing out some clutter, clearing out some toys, making room. Less is more. Go through things. If it hasn't been touched, if it hasn't been used, if it hasn't been picked up in a while, pass it on to someone else that can use it. Get rid of it. Clear it out. Keep a trash bag. You know, go challenge yourself every day. You're going to go through and you're going to have one box and one trash bag, and you're going to do one box of trash and one box of giveaway stuff, and do that for a week. And at the end of the week, you've got 7 bags of trash and 7 bags of giveaway stuff. Kids thrive in environments that are as clutter-free and visually, as you know, with as little visual chaos as possible. So that's something that I preach. Nobody's perfect. We all have to try. I'm looking at some clutter and chaos right now from my office as I'm broadcasting, but it really does matter. Energetically in your home, everything holds energy. All of our items, all of our belongings hold energy. And so when we clear things out that has old stagnant energy, we make room for new energy, new things to come in. So just letting everyone know that that's kind of a good place to start. I also want to give a shout out. I haven't used it this year, but there's a website called motivatedmoms.com. They should call it Motivated Parents because Dad's clean too. But motivatedmoms.com is a great website. You can print out a daily guide, and it's a list of, I think, 5 to 6 things that keeps your house clean without you ever having to do one big clean. So you just do these 5 or 6 things every day. I would assign those 5 or 6 things to my kids. I would let them choose. And if they couldn't choose, I would choose for them. But Motivated Moms is a great way to keep your house picked up and clean. And it's simple things like one day you vacuum the downstairs and you change out the hand towel and you clean out the refrigerator and you brush off the front porch. And there are tasks that have to get done every day, like the dishwasher and the meals or whatever. But these are house cleaning chores that if you just do those 4 or 5 things every day, you just get them knocked out and they're done and they're behind you and your house stays clean and picked up. And it's an inexpensive program. I mean, it's just a few dollars, and you can download the PDF and you can print them all out and you can put them in a binder and just go through and check them off day by day. And that's a really great tool that I use. Another great tool that I use to keep my life streamlined and clutter-free and also to keep my budget under control is something called emeals.com. Dave Ramsey talks about it. It's E-M-E-A-L-S, emeals.com. Emeals is a fabulous program. I use the Clean Eating Emails program. There's a bunch of different menus. There's even a breakfast one. There's a school lunch one. It's very affordable. I found that it's very much worth the cost because I can go in, I can download a different menu every week. The Clean Eating one I like because there's no preservatives, there's no processed foods in that. There's a kid-friendly one, there's a paleo, there's gluten-free, there's a crock pot one, there's a budget-friendly one. There's many different kinds, and you can customize it for a family of size of 1 to 2 people or for a family size of 4 to 6. And you print off a menu of 7 meals, and you print off the shopping list. There's room on that shopping list always for me to add my own items that I need. And I take it to the store and I buy what's on the list, and I have those meals here. And what I have found with that is I also have enough leftovers for lunches and enough little extras that I can usually stretch that 7 days worth of meals with my family size and with what we have going on here into 2 weeks. Now that does mean, we eat out some on the weekends and there are some meals that we eat out, but that 7 days worth of meals lasts me about 2 weeks. So my kid's dad, as we have transitioned, out of this relationship, and he has my son living with him and he's having to learn how to cook and manage or whatever, he's found it really helpful to just print off his meal list, and he knows when he comes home at the end of the day from work, there's The food is going to be in the fridge. It's all going to be there. There's no running out to the store. And then we all know when we go to the store, you pick up more things than you actually need. So you just get the stuff that you need at the store. It's there. It's in the fridge. You've got it to cook. And it's a game changer for me. I really, really love it. I'm sure there are other programs out there like that. I've just used eMeals for years, and I really, really like it. So that's a way to whip your house into shape and to take some stress off of you and to make your life a little bit easier. Now I want to shift a little bit into the energetics of whipping your house into shape. One of those things is that I really believe in is owning your power. I think that our culture sometimes tends to have, we want to be our kids' friends, and that's good. And this is a good reminder for me because I've let this slide a little bit in some of my relationships with some of my kids. I haven't kind of stood as firm as I need to stand, and I haven't owned my power. We need to remember that we are older and we are wiser and we are the parents, and that we love our children very much. And while we want to be friendly with them, we also, I'm the mama and you're the daddy and you're the mama and you're in charge in that household. The children are not. It is your house. And so, I'm giving you permission to stand, if you need it, really firmly and confidently and calmly in your power as the parent, and stay in balance and really stay, and just really own that. Really, really own that. We live in a society of, I think, a lot of permissive parenting. We live in a society of where I think a lot of parents are wanting their kids to be their friends. I fall into that, sometimes because, we love our kids and we like them, and they're our favorite people. And we want to be friendly with them, and it's easy to not stand in our power sometimes with that. So what does owning our power look like? What does that look like? What it looks like is that we don't do anything for our children without our children doing something for us first. So some verbiage around that is, sure, I'll take you to your friend's house as soon as the laundry is folded. I'm happy to help you with that when you've finished your plate. I'm happy to hand you this popsicle as soon as the table has been wiped. So we are getting back from our kids as we're giving to them. We give a lot in our society, and it gets out of balance when we start doing more for our children than they're doing for us. And we need to remember that, this is a household and it's kind of like a business, and that it needs to be in balance. If you were the boss of your company, you would not be just handing things to your employees without expecting them to do work for you in return. You don't give them a paycheck. So in your house, the things that you do for your kids, the things that you hand them, do for them, drive them to, allow them to have, provide for them, that's your currency, just like it is on the job. So if we remember that this is kind of like a boss-employee relationship, we're expecting our kids to do for us just like we do for them. They need to, just like you show up every day at your job and you do what you're supposed to do, and you are there and you're there on time and you give 100%. Our kids need to do that too. We're raising adults. We're raising them to learn that life is give and take, and you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, and this is the way things work, and they need to learn that. So there's nothing wrong with giving them what they need when they've completed their chores. There's nothing wrong with leaving for the water park as soon as all the chairs are pushed in and the living room is clean. This is great verbiage. I don't, my teenagers want to come in and I'm going to the movie. Okay, well, as soon as the cat box is clean, you can. I'm going down the street with my friend. Okay, as soon as you've made your bed, that's awesome for you to go down the street for your friend. With my little guys, it's sure, let's go get those blocks out as soon as we've cleaned up the other toys. you know. So always, 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 in order to stay in balance, it's a really good tool. Make sure that if you're doing something for your children or providing something for your children, that they're providing something for you. This also prevents that burnout when we get to that place of, oh my gosh, I'm just, parenting fatigue. For me, it's mothering fatigue. I mean, I get to a place sometimes where, and I'm aware of it now because I've been doing this for a long time, but my bucket gets empty. Your bucket gets empty, and when you start feeling that thing where you start feeling resentful and you start feeling you're doing for everybody else and nobody's taking care of anything and it's all on you and it's all your job and it's all your responsibility, that's when you know you need to check yourself. That's when you know that your kids are laying on the couch and you're wiping the kitchen counter down and you're cleaning up the dinner dishes that they just left on the table, and you've slipped out of routine and you're not allowing yourself to receive from your children as much as you're giving to them. So own your power, own your place, stay in balance. The other thing we talk about keeping our buckets full is to really make sure that we're getting our needs met. And this is a hot button for people. They get angry when I say this, but I believe it to be true. And so I'm just gonna, I believe this, believe this, believe this. We need to put ourselves first. You have to take care of yourself first. So what does that look like in your life? I don't know. What are the things that fill your bucket? What are the things that when you are feeling a little empty and you're feeling like you've been over giving and overdoing and over taking care of everyone else, what are some things that you can do for yourself to fill your bucket? For me, it's been running. I'm not running right now because it's 100 degrees outside. When I move, I'm going to have a gym. I'm looking forward to getting on the treadmill. Having the time to get out and run fills my bucket. Going to yoga fills my bucket, carving that time out for myself. I'm not doing either one of those things right now because of life circumstances, and I have to be hyper aware that I'm not doing those things, and so I find other ways to fill my bucket. I have hobbies. I crochet. If you follow me on Instagram at Heartlight Services, you'll see that I crochet. My kids make fun of me because they say it's a grandma thing to do, but it's very relaxing and meditative for me. So taking time to just sit and crochet, that fills my bucket. So I'm doing a lot of that right now because I'm not doing other things that fill my bucket. Going and getting a pedicure. Occasionally, when I'm just feeling kind of really, I'll just tell everybody, I'm taking the night off, and you guys figure out dinner and you figure out what's happening. Order pizza and make it happen. But I'm going to take care of me tonight, and I'm going to, Netflix and chill. I'm going to sit still and I'm going to watch some TV, and I'm not doing anything for anyone else tonight. I'm done. I'm taking the night off. And that's okay. It's okay. And if you're partnered or if you have a spouse, it's okay to tell your spouse or partner, I'm taking the night off. I need a night for me. I'm not getting up for this couch. I'm sitting right here and I'm taking care of me. Or I'm going upstairs and I'm getting in bed. And I'm going to watch TV and I'm going to chill and I'm going to drink a glass of wine and eat a bowl of ice cream by myself. Whatever that is, put yourself first. I know that I have a lot of listeners that are foster parents that have multiple children, 6, 7, 8 kids, and it's almost impossible to find that time for yourself. But I would challenge you and say that, and I would offer that the more children you have, the more intentional you have to be about creating time for yourself. If we don't take care of ourselves, we can't take care of other people. We can't take care of other people. So, you have to take care of yourself first. Put yourself first. Our society celebrates people that overwork and overdo and overcompensate and struggle. And for some reason, we don't celebrate the people who are balanced and say, you know what? Good for her for taking a day off and going and getting a pedicure and having lunch with her girlfriends and wandering around the bookstore for 2 hours. That was awesome. What we look at, for some reason, and I don't know where this started in our society, we look at people that self-sacrifice and work themselves to death and struggle, and we say, yay, good job, and we applaud that. And I want to shift that. I want to shift this society and our culture to a place to where we honor people that take care of themselves, because people that feed themselves and take care of themselves are better able to feed and take care of others. I don't know why we give a thumbs up to the guy that doesn't. Man, he worked an 80-hour work week. He's really a go-getter. He really, really, you know. Why? Why don't we celebrate the people that choose to do a 40-hour work week or a 30-hour work week or live small so that they spend more time with their families and choose to live with less? I don't know where that is, but that's a paradigm that I'd like to shift, as we talk about people taking better care of themselves, because I believe that as a society, we value overwork and struggle, and we don't value self-care and self-love and living smaller and taking care of ourselves and our families. So taking care of yourself, that's a huge thing for me. And that's, when people come into the office and they've got challenging kids, especially, you have tough kids, you need to take care of yourself. And I, as a foster mom, I learned this because I had too many kids. For 1 month, I had 8 children, and I thought that I would be a really good mom to 8 kids. I always wanted this huge family. I have 4 now, and they're ages 5 to 21, so I didn't have 4 really young. But I will tell you that I learned I'm not a really good mom to 8 kids without any help. And I really drowned, and I didn't practice good self-care, and I didn't take care of myself. And what I needed to do was get some extra help in there. I was way, way, way over my head. And my husband was working a full-time job, and he helped as much as he could. But we were in over our heads, and we needed help. And it was too much. And it's at that time where I made parenting choices and parenting decisions that I have the most regret about now. And it came out of my exhaustion. And it came out of my inability to have self-care because I didn't have systems in place, and I just drowned. So the harder your kids are, the more stressful your family life is. If you've got kids that have special needs, if you've got whatever, the more important it is to really, really, really keep your bucket full. And I'll tell my kids, my bucket is empty. Like, I am out. I got nothing. You guys got to come. You guys have to come. You got to help me out. I need a night, and you got to help me out. And they will. And they want to. And then through that, our children, when they see us take care of our own needs and they see us take care of themselves, they in turn learn to do that. They in turn learn to say it's okay, when they're adults, to say, I'm done and I'm exhausted and I can't another second, and I'm going to sit down here and I'm going to practice some self-care, and I'm going to allow the other people around us to take care of me. I come from a long line of women who took care of everybody, and they're caretakers, and that's what our culture says we as women do, is we take care of everybody. We take care of everybody at the exclusion of ourselves, and I want to challenge that. We need to take care of ourselves. So enough about that. I think I've gotten my point across on that. I also, talk about taking care of ourselves, because then the next place where we have to put our priority, I believe, is in our marriages. If you're partnered or in your partnership, you have to take care of your marriage or your partnership second. If you're a single parent, you can kind of tune me out for the next little bit, but you first, take care of you first, take care of our partnership second. And even if you are a single parent and you have a really close girlfriend or guy friend, or you have somebody that's kind of your rock and your main, that when you get together with that person, you feel fed and you feel whatever, I would encourage you to really nurture that relationship, because that's important. You really, really, really need to have a support system around you that's strong as a single parent, even more so than I think if you're partnered. Nurture the people that are what Brene Brown calls your marble jar friends, the ones that really, you can call at 3 o'clock in the morning and say, my kids are puking and I need you to go to Walgreens and get me some medicine and come over here and help. Nurture those relationships. You need those. You need that support system. And if you're married, nurture your marriage. Nurture your marriage. Take care of yourself, whatever that looks like for you. Encourage your partner to take care of themselves and take care of your marriage. And I'll be the first person to admit, and I think my kid's dad would admit, well, I know he would admit this with me, and I'm hoping to have him on the show sometime to kind of talk about, how we did things as we went through a divorce, because it was an interesting process and I think a beautiful one if you're going to do it. But one of the places that we failed was we didn't nurture our marriage. We didn't do date nights. We didn't nurture the romance. We didn't nurture the intimacy and the parts that make a couple a couple. And that is something now as we move into other relationships, we're really being cognizant about and really making sure that we nurture and that we take care of and that we feed. Because if you don't have that, if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of your spouse. And if you and your spouse aren't taking care of each other, you don't have a marriage and your kids don't have the same parents. And so, do as I say, not as I did. I got in it. We got overwhelmed. We let life take over. We didn't keep things fresh. We didn't challenge ourselves and grow, both of us, and get to where we had new and exciting things to talk about. We didn't do the date nights. We didn't do these things. And because of that, that was really a chink, that really kind of put the nail in the coffin of our relationship. And that's where I see couples fail. You have kids and before you have children, a friend of mine said this beautifully yesterday, before you have children, you're in this relationship and your eyes are on each other and your eyes are locked. And then you have kids and your eyes shift down to look at those children. And if you don't bring your eyes back up to your spouse to where you're locking eyes again, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. So take a class, take weekends away, get someone to come in. And I know it's expensive. I'm in a situation right now with, I'm having to kind of be more careful and be a steward my money differently than I did in the past. Go to the park and have a picnic. Go on a walk together. Find free things to do. I know here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex and probably everywhere else in the country right now, there are free concerts every night of the week. Pack a picnic. Go to a concert. Do something. Go to a botanical garden. Go go wander a bookstore together and flip through books. Go wander through the mall. Whatever. Spend time together. Listen to me. I just came through this, and I'm learning from experience before it's too late. Spend time together and nurture each other and nurture your relationship so that you can be a strong unit for your kids. It's super, super important. If you don't hear anything else I said today or anything else I had to offer today, I would offer that. Before I go on, I do want to remind everybody that we do have a studio line, and if you do want to call in, the studio number is 817-380-4354. I would love to take calls today and help answer anybody's questions that has questions and help them kind of move through maybe a challenge or a circumstance that's going on in your life. So we're going to move on. We talked about putting yourself first, putting your marriage second, and then kids come next. I think a lot of times in our culture, kids kind of come first, and I feel very strongly that that's backwards. I feel like our kids come third. It makes sense when you talk about it, well, I got to take care of me, and then I got to take care of my marriage, and then, if I take care of me, then I can take care of my spouse. Excuse me. And if I take care of my spouse, then I can take care of my kids. And that obviously is the natural flow, but is that really happening in your house? Or is it all about the kids and all about their activities and all about who's got to be where, and you're running yourself so crazy that you can't lock eyes with your husband? Or you're running yourself so crazy that you can't take 5 minutes for yourself? How's that happening in your house? What does it look like? When we talk about activities for kids, here's another thing that I'm going to say that's not super popular, but, I call it like I see it, and that's one of the things I do in my practice with clients. People know that I call it like I see it. I think we have kids that are overscheduled. I don't feel like that our children need more than one extracurricular activity that they're doing per week. Now, if you've got a kid that's a prodigy, or you got a kid that's got something that they love and they adore, then by all means, get them there and support it and do it. And if you've got a gymnast or you've got a select soccer player or whatever, that is fabulous. But for most of our kids who just want to do an extracurricular thing, and it's good to be well-rounded, and I encourage my kids to do one activity. And for a long time when they're little, that's the rule. You got to do one thing. What's it going to be? My big guy right now is kind of getting into skateboarding, and he's doing a skateboard camp next week. And he broke his wrist right when we got the skateboard, so we haven't really gotten to focus on that, but the wrist is healed. We're going to get back on it. We did football for years. But I see so many kids that come into my office, guys. I mean, listen to me. I see all these kids that come into my office, and they've got too much going on. They've got school, they're balancing school relationships and friendships. And then they've got something to do every day after school and homework on top of that, and their weekends are packed. It's too much. It's too much, in my opinion. You can take it or leave it. For the family, for these kids to be involved in all of these things, they need downtime. They need time to rest and recoup and charge batteries. And families need downtime. You know, families need time to sit around and have movie nights. You know, when was the last time any of you guys did that? When was the last time we did it last week. We saw Eddie the Eagle, by the way, and I know I'm going off on a tangent, but it was a darling and precious movie. We ordered pizza, we sat on the couch, we ate pizza on the couch, we ate popcorn on the couch, we watched Eddie the Eagle, and we just did nothing. And if your kids are doing something every day after school, or they're booked solid and packed, and you don't have time to do family time and just to sit around on a Sunday morning or a Saturday morning and just be a family and just relax and snuggle and read the paper, then you might want to reevaluate. If you're running your kids to activities so much that you don't have time for your spouse and you don't have time for yourself, you're running your family into the ground, and you need to shift and think about whether or not it's really worth it. What kind of adult are you trying to raise? Shifting back to what we talked about earlier in the broadcast, what kind of adult are you trying to raise? So you might want to sit down and make, there are time management charts that are on the internet, and start looking at how are you spending your day? It was really interesting for me. I took a workshop last year, and it was actually just a business building workshop, but they gave me a time management chart, and I tend to be kind of a hummingbird, and I flit from one activity to the other, and I looked at how much of my day I was spending on certain things, and it was really eye-opening. And I decided to do one for my family to see how many hours a day my family was spending on certain activities and certain things, and that was super eye-opening, and it helped me get to a place where I kind of shifted around and looked at different ways of doing things in different places that I wanted to put some focus. I realized I was spending a lot of time on Facebook, not super healthy, and I really got some awareness around that and kind of cut that back. I still spend too much time on Facebook, but I'm aware of it. And so there's always a place to work, and there's always a place to improve. But a time management chart, if you kind of fill that out and look at how different members of your family and how the household is spending their time during the day, you might find some places where you decide that you want to make some changes, because it's if you really look at it, how you're spending your day, it's pretty powerful. Okay, studio line again, 817-380-4354. I'm going to shift into what I believe to be the biggest and best parenting tool of all time, which are natural consequences. Easier said than done. I was raised in a household where and it's what they were raised in, and so no fault of my parents, but we're learning now how the brain works and how kids work, and we're learning some different tools. Threats and bribes, and my parents used corporal punishment, and I will be honest and say that I've resorted to that. I spank a lot less now than I did when my kids were small and I didn't have these tools. It's very, very, very rare. As a matter of fact, it's almost non-existent in my household, because I allow for natural consequences, and that's primarily what we use. So what is a natural consequence? It's allowing children to bear the weight of their mistakes, and it's allowing them, instead of me imposing a consequence, it's allowing them to experience the consequence of that reaction. It's a hard thing to get the hang of. I would highly, highly, highly recommend Love and Logic. I know that most of us have heard of Love and Logic. There's a website. There are many churches in every area where you can take the classes. They have several books out there. Their website is fabulous, and there are responses to all different kinds of issues that you come up with kids, where it's just, it gives you the response. What I love about Love and Logic and Natural Consequences is I love the way it allows you to stay connected to your children without being having to be punitive and without having to be the bad guy, and it just allows them to bear the brunt of their mistakes. So, if take the book, read the class, check it out. It's awesome. One of the things that they use a lot is the phrase bummer. Bummer, I let my kids fail. And I let my kids fail because I want them to learn how to deal with that. I don't want to rescue them. And I have personal experience with what happens when we rescue children. And my oldest child she's been challenging, to say the least. She's 21 now. We're just now coming around to really some, part of the reason I got into the work that I did is some of the challenges that parenting my oldest child brought to the table. And I wish, in hindsight, and one of the reasons I got into Love and Logic and Natural Consequences is that I realized that one of the mistakes I made with her is I didn't say bummer enough. I rescued and I was punitive. And so I raised an adult who was in situations and expected me to rescue her, and I continued to rescue for too long. And I wish that I had not. So what that looks like in older kids is, this bummer, I use it a lot, or, oh man, that stinks. For instance, this is a real life example. My oldest son wanted to participate in an activity at school this next year. It was something he wanted to have on his schedule and something that he wanted to do. He's 14. He is perfectly old enough to manage a calendar. My kids know that if there's something that they need or want to do, they have to make sure it goes on my calendar. They have to email me. They have to leave me a sticky note. They have to communicate to me so that I can make sure it happens. If they just tell me verbally, it's not going to happen. I'm going to forget. I've got too many things going on. It's not. They're responsible for making sure that stuff gets on my calendar. And in this case, my son forgot. He didn't tell me. And he missed going to the meetings, and he missed the activities that needed to happen for him to be able to participate in something that he wanted to participate in. And now he doesn't get to next year. And that's a drag. And I said, bummer. That stinks. I bet you'll make a different choice next time. So what happened? It doesn't matter. Did I want my son to participate in this activity? Absolutely. Yeah. It would have been a really cool opportunity for him. It would have been great. I wish that he had made a different choice. I do, but he didn't. But you know what? He learned for the rest of his life now that if he doesn't show up to the meeting, and if he doesn't put stuff on the calendar, and if he doesn't make sure that he puts the pieces in place for the things that he wants to do to happen, he doesn't get to do it. And he misses out for the whole year. Now, did I know he had the meeting? Yep. Did I know that he needed to show up for that? And that if he didn't show up for that, and if he didn't make it happen, then he wasn't going to get to have this opportunity? Yeah. And you know what? I let him fail. And I know he listens to my show, so sorry, buddy, but I let you fail because I wanted you to learn that if you, need something to happen for yourself, you got to make it happen. So this is what we're talking about. My kids get all of my kids, whether they're little or big, they know if they leave their books at home, or if they leave their lunch, or if they forget their lunch money, or if they get one ticket per semester of me rescuing them, and they need to use it wisely. So if they leave their lunch on the counter, do they want me to bring that, or should they save that ticket? I will make an emergency run to the school once per semester. And honestly, I feel like I'm being super generous with that. They're old enough to remember their stuff. It's set there, Obviously, with my little guys, with my kindergartner, there's going to be a little bit more leeway with that before I pull a super hard line. He's 5. He's learning how to go to school. It's going to be a little bit different conversation. But with my big guys, I don't micromanage their grades. They know what they got to make. They know what they want to do with their lives. They know how it needs to look if they want to get into the college of their dreams and have the career of their dreams and all of that. That's not my job. If they don't do it, It's on them. And I know people are saying, but, yeah, we need to let our kids make little mistakes now. If they don't want to take their jacket, I tell my little guy, okay, that's fine. And then we get where we're going and it's cold outside. The other day we went to the pool and they didn't want to go look for the goggles, and we went to the pool and we didn't have enough goggles and not everybody had goggles, and that was a really big bummer. I bet you'll make a different choice next time. So, we managed to do without the goggles. When we got home, my little guy went and found the goggles and put them in the swim bag so everybody had goggles next time. And he learned this valuable lesson. Now, could I have gone and gotten the goggles and could I have whatever and saved the day? Yeah. But I said, get the goggles, and they made the choice not to. And I said, okay. So these are the things that I'm talking about, that we really, as we move into this school year, I encourage you to let your kids make small mistakes now. Let them get a failing grade because they didn't remember their project. Don't micromanage. Don't do it for them. We want to raise self-reliant adults that don't need their mommy coming to work for them and bringing them their lunch at the office. And I know that's a ridiculous example, but that's what we're talking about. And then as we do this part, when my kid shows up to school without a coat and it's wintertime and it's cold outside because he didn't want to bring his coat, and I'm going to let him be cold, he might not get to go out to the playground, there's judgment on that, right? Well, the teacher's going to think I'm a bad mom because my kid doesn't have his coat, or they're going to think that he doesn't have a coat, or the other parents are going to think my kid's the only one getting out of the car without his coat. My kid needs to learn that he needs to bring his coat because it's cold outside. And I need to let go of the fear of judgment from other parents because I'm trying to teach life lessons here. Now, I had a boss one time, and his kid would not get up for school. And he said, you know what? We're getting in the car at this time of day, and if you have to go to school in your pajamas, you're going to go to school in your pajamas. And that's just going to be the way that it is. And lo and behold, he scooped the kid up because the kid hadn't gotten out of bed and took the kid to school without their teeth brushed and with crazy hair and in their pajamas. And he brought along a pair of flip-flops, and that was a really kind of a tough day for that kid. And he did email the teacher and say, here's what we're doing. Here's why my kid came to school like this. It's the natural consequence of not getting up on time. You have to go to school. So we just came, That child never again missed being up on time for school ever in their entire school career. That kid learned a valuable lesson. Now, the parent could have said, well, I don't want to be judged because I took my kid to school in their pajamas and whatever. But that kid was there on time. I had a foster kid that had trouble getting out of bed and getting ready. And I finally, I said, well, this is when the car leaves. The car leaves at this time. If you're not in the car, you're going to have to walk, and it's a long way. And then you're going to be tardy. And if you get too many tardies, and I ran it through the caseworkers in the right channels, and she did. She had to walk a couple times. It was a long way. It was a safe way. There was a sidewalk, and then she had to deal with the consequences of being tardy, and then she had to sit after school and all of that. But we did that a couple of times. She got in the car on time. These are the things I'm talking about. Allow your kids to fail. Allow them to make mistakes. Allow them to make the little mistakes now so that they're not making big mistakes later. Don't be a rescuer. Don't worry about what the other parents are going to think or what the teacher is going to think. Just tell them, look, I'm a natural consequences household. Here's why we're doing this. Send a quick email if you feel like you need to cover your butt so nobody calls CPS. Let them screw up. Let them fail. You're building adults here. That's one of the biggest things, is that we tend to want to rescue. I did it. I did it for years. I wish I hadn't. If I hadn't, maybe my child wouldn't be dealing with some of the much more serious consequences in her life, my adult child that she's dealing with now, because she would have learned the weight of her consequences earlier. It's really, really big. It's really, really big. Also remember, we're winding down the show here, but you teach people how to treat you. And when we're owning our power, and we're asking for what we need, and we're allowing our kids, we're asking them to meet us halfway, and we're having them give to us just as we're giving to them. We're teaching our children how to treat us, and we're teaching our children how to treat our grandchildren, and we're teaching our children what it looks like for a spouse to treat them. Firm and healthy boundaries, not engaging in power struggles, owning your power. These are all beautiful things that we want to model for our kids, and using some of these natural consequences and using some of the things we talked about today really help them do that. If you have any questions for me, you're always free to email me, Sarah, Sarah, at heartlightservices.com. I love hearing from my listeners. I do want to thank again BMW Moritz and Mini for my beautiful new Mini Cooper Countryman and for the help that I received on that. I want to thank all of you for listening to me today. Go out and create some connections. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.